Your soul's voice, it is still, it is quiet, it is gentle, it's not in a hurry. Your soul keeps knocking at the door in a sense, pulling you to your deepest desires, your holy desires, your heart's desires. And you can ignore it for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 50 years, 70 years. And yet it will keep knocking at the door. It will keep pulling you in a certain direction. It's quiet, it's gentle, and it also doesn't give up.
As you guided me and you guide so many other people back to that place of stillness and that center, every time you tell me that, it really does feel like it parallels a lot of the lessons I learned in A Course in Miracles. And I love how the Course in Miracles talks about the quiet voice that never raises tone. It's always there, present and steady, is you.
Yes.
The loud voices coming in and out, opinionated, in a hurry, all of these things. Once we can get to the place of finding that center, which is why you say meditation, or why so many of the great sages have said meditation, to get centered and still, is the key to shifting the life situation into a more harmonious version of your inner peace.
Yes.
So authentic choice comes with a dilemma, because as soon as anyone makes a authentic choice, it feels like the tests and the trials and, are you sure? What about this? And I want to talk a little bit more about that differentiating.
So there are many things that we wish to say. First of all, we greatly appreciate your pointing out about the difference between the small, still, steady voice that is your true self, always there in the background, never in a hurry. That is the voice of your true self, versus the other voices or multitude of voices that are also present within you that can sometimes mimic the experience of intuition, but we would say this is not intuition at all. And so the way that you, first of all, differentiate is that those voices that are not intuition have a sense of urgency to them. They're louder, and there's a sense of urgency. They want you to take action. They want you to move forward in a very specific way. And if you don't do this thing at this time, then everything's going to fall apart. And you can witness within yourself, if you are really aware and really bringing awareness to the difference between these two voices, that louder voice really is a voice of self-protection. And that's the way that you can differentiate, because your soul's voice, most of the time we would say, it is still, it is quiet, it is gentle, it's not in a hurry. We would also point out that the way that we've described it to Karen recently is that your soul always keeps knocking at the door in a sense. And so it's always pulling you to your deepest desires, your holy desires, your heart's desires. So it keeps knocking at that door, and you can ignore it. You can ignore it for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 50 years, 70 years. And yet it is very steady. It will keep knocking at the door. It will keep pulling you in a certain direction, seeking to express itself through you in a greater way, and leading you to your deepest heart's desires. Because you understand that this energy of desire, when it's aligned with the soul and not the surface mind or the ego self, this energy of desire is what pulls you forward in terms of your spiritual evolution. So in our perspective, it's not a bad thing. But we would like to point out the persistence of the soul. It doesn't give up. It's quiet, it's gentle, and it also doesn't give up. It's persistent. And so the question that beings may want to ask themselves is, what would happen if I were to stop trying to talk myself out of this small, still voice who keeps knocking at my door? Are you understanding what we were saying? What would happen if I just stopped talking myself out of that, whatever that is? Not that I have to take action in this moment in that direction, but what would happen if I just stopped trying to talk myself out of it? The aspect of you that is trying to talk yourself out of following that inner guidance is, again, the aspect of you that is in fear. Fear of things falling apart, fear of things collapsing, fear of repeating an event in the past that was difficult or traumatic or scary or overwhelming for your human. These protective voices are seeking to prevent you from experiencing that. And so these are the voices that override the soul and override those authentic choice points. Now, the second part we would like to speak to you about is this idea of tests. And we would say that is one way that you could look at it. You could look at it as these tests are coming to the surface. We would describe it as we just described it in the introduction, which is when you make an authentic choice, there can be chaos. There can be an experience of things falling apart. There can be an experience of dissolution. It's not necessarily a test, but what is arising is, again, the crumbling of all the inauthentic choices that you have made. And so there can be a little bit of a difficult period as all of the old starts to crumble and dissolve, and the new energy coming in perhaps is not quite anchored. And so you're in this transition point. We would say this is the most difficult phase for humans because, again, there's a lot of uncertainty. Now, once that new energy starts to flow in and be expressed, as the reflections in your external realities start to become known to you, it becomes much easier to trust this is the direction. Until that point, you are, in a sense, feels like a void where things are falling apart and new things haven't quite manifested. And so where am I? And as we said earlier, it's very unsettling for your human self. So this is the most difficult aspect of the journey. One more thing we'd like to just add on to this is that you will know that you are not on the path of your truest self, or you will know that you are not making authentic choices when it is feeling in your life that you are walking this uphill battle. And the further you tread down that path, it's as if the steeper the incline becomes. And so as you walk that path, it's becoming more and more and more and more difficult. We would say, and this may bring comfort to all those listening, that although it may seem more difficult to take that authentic choice and to move forward in alignment with your soul, we would say that the quality that starts to express itself eventually is the quality of flow. And so it doesn't feel as if you are walking an uphill battle. It starts to feel like the opposite. It starts to feel like energy is flowing, energy is moving. There's an aliveness, a vitality, a joy. That can take a little bit of time to manifest. And so, again, the most difficult phase of the experience is when the old is crumbling, but the new hasn't quite taken its foothold yet in terms of the reflection in your external reality.